Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series live with Rabbi Karmi Ingber, who is still in Israel, I believe. And it's always a joy to be with our friends down in the Netiv Zoom room. We got Sandy and Nancy with us, and Cheyenne just came in. I think we're going to have some more, no doubt. Always a joy, but let's just jump right in and turn it over to Rabbi Ingber, who's been politically clear these last few weeks. Rabbi, yeah, we're going to turn the class over to you.
Yeah,
And let me
good.
just...
Good to see you all. Yeah, I may stay a little bit more political today, even because of the situation.
Recording in progress.
Uh, so I think I'm gonna stay a little political more today because of the situation. And we're gonna actually try to deal with some preconceived notions that people have. And sort of think things through a second. You know, I said to you a few weeks ago, I mean, and I've been saying this the past couple of weeks, really, when I see people siding with the terrorists, you have to wonder, is it ignorance or is it evil? And I don't know. At this point, if someone is that ignorant, it's not a good sign. But we have a new level this week where the Hamas seem to really believe people are either that stupid or that evil, because they have the um, the hostages that were released in this deal, which they told them, you better wave and say thank you, because if not, we're going to kill the people we still have here, your sisters and your brothers and your husbands. So like, and actually people are like saying these things like their way, yeah. Thank you for killing and murdering and raping and torturing my whole family and I. And like people are actually saying, well, these are nice people. So we have like a really very bizarre situation of that, where these people know, excuse me, I have to raise my thing. People know that that Hamas realized that people are going to believe these crazy, crazy things, either out of stupidity or out of ignorance. So I want to actually talk about some principles of thought that people take, and how we think, and how it's important to think, and then some misconceptions that we have. So first, I want to share one thing. Again, I said that the Israeli government's a political entity. It's not a religious entity, and they decide what they decide. They didn't ask the rabbis about this deal. I think it's a very good sign. It's not the right thing to do, but there is a side to save a person's life at all costs, which that really is the fundamental Jewish tenet. And this is important to understand this, because you know Hamas and people like that really are death culture. They welcome death. And I was just thinking about the stark contrast of the most fundamental principles of what is true. And I want you all to understand this, because this is fundamental. And this is why, even if it was not the right thing to do to make this trade, because Hamas was bombing Tel Aviv tonight because you gave them a week to reload. I mean, that's what was happened. They killed 3 people in a terrorist attack because they had the pressure off them. So you saved these people, and they killed more people, and they're bombing more people. So whether this is the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, it's a very complicated question, which I wasn't asked. But again, I want to, maybe, even though I don't think it was right, to defend the rationale of the maybe mistaken Israeli government. And that is that, like this, there is a very fundamental principle. It says that when God created the world, all of the species were created in groups, in mass groups. A lot of elephants, a lot of horses, a lot of crocodiles. There was one entity that was created in a singular fashion. That's humanity. Man was created as one couple. But why? Why didn't God create a lot of people? Right? He created a lot of tigers. Why did he create a lot of people? Why did he create everyone from one person? Meaning male, female is one entity. Adam and Eve. Why? So Talmud says, and this is the guiding principle that is guiding principle in Jewish life, and it should be in all of your lives, in everyone's life. And you'll see the stark contrast between these other terrorists with how they think. The reason why the world was created from one human being is to teach you the following lesson: that whoever saves one person saves an entire world. Whoever kills one person kills the entire world. Because the world came from one person. This has tremendous ramifications. This means every person has to look at themselves and say, the world was created for me, not in an egotistical way, but that means that I am important because God created all humanity from one couple. That means every person has a mission, every person is dear, every person important. And that is the Jewish view of the world. So they're flipping upside down, trading in people for thousands of terrorists. And okay, it's not necessarily the right calculation, but I do understand because that is the Jewish view, and that should be everyone's view. That's certainly not the view of these people. These people, are terrorists, and terrorists don't value life by definition. This is not for Jewish life. This is everyone's life. A Jewish person needs to understand that every life is so valuable. So that's why the bizarre nature of listening to the news, they're killing people. Yeah, because we're being killed, and the people who are killing us didn't say, ceasefire, we want to stop this. They said, hudna. Hudna is Arabic for a pause to reload. So they didn't change their mandate of destroying the Jewish people. They just said, okay, we need a break because we're losing and we need to reload ourselves. And they broke it. They sent thousands of missiles and they commit terrorist attacks on during the ceasefire. So we live in a world where people have crazy ideas. And unfortunately, these terrorists really have no value for life. And the real position of the world is supposed to be that every single life is precious. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's right what the government is doing to the government, because it's very nice you want to save civilians, but you're endangering your people. You're telling terrorists, we're going to bomb this place. It's unheard of. No one's ever done this in war because it's really stupid. We're going to bomb this place. Everyone should leave. So who leaves? Only. So the bad people say, we're going to stay here. And, no, they leave also. So you're basically telegraphing how do you win a war? This is war. War is terrible. But that's a Jewish principle. And the principle is not the pseudo belief system of the UN. Turn the other cheek. But they don't mean it for them. They mean it for us. But we shouldn't be living like that. But the Israeli government, and they have their own value system, and they want to prove that they have these ideas more than the so-called views of the nations, that they accept this. We don't accept this. The rule is, someone comes to kill you, you must kill them first, because they're terrorists. That's the reality. That's the nature of the game. And those who see through it, and those who don't are either very, very ignorant, extremely ignorant, crazily ignorant, or there's something not good inside of them. So with that introduction, I want to get even a little bit more racy this week, with Dan's permission, because I want to actually now deal with some of the concepts that are givens in our society. In America, they are givens. In the Western world, they're givens, and I want to question them. So it's a little dangerous because you can't question these things. But I will, and we'll discuss it and see what everyone thinks. It really, right now in America and the Western world, there is this thing that is the worst thing you could be and the best thing you could be. What's the worst thing you could be is a racist. What's the best thing you could be is open-minded. Those are the two rules. And I want to understand what those rules mean, because I don't know that we understand what we're saying, and we're all we're all accepting things. I see that someone there has a poster of President Trump, former President Trump, and one of the things that President Trump did, which will probably get in the nomination now again, is that a lot of the Republican candidates would have the deal with the assumptions that were imposed upon them. The guy interview someone. Well, so tell me, have you stopped beating your wife yet? And they would answer the question with the assumptions of the interviewer. And Trump said, "I don't accept your assumptions," which is a very smart thing to do, because what happens is when people assume certain things, they put on their reality on you, and then you're working within their construct. And who said I accept your construct? And that was one of the reasons, that one of the approaches that he did, which was very smart and good in the sense of trying to move the presumptions back. So I want to talk about these, so to speak, sacred cows, as they say, for society. So racism. Now, I know it's the worst thing in the world, and I know the best thing in the world is to be open-minded. Let's talk about open-minded first, because that'll be a little bit easier. Second one's going to get a little bit stickier. So first of all, what does it mean to be open-minded? What does that really mean? And what do people mean when they say it? See, I feel I'm a very open-minded person. You could tell me your opinion, and I will hear your opinion, think about it. If it makes sense, I'll go further with it. But I have my opinion, and my opinion is based on what I believe to be true after much research and investigation. And therefore, although I actually believe that I am a million times more open-minded than people claim they're open-minded, but I will not be called open-minded. Why? Because I might come out and say, I think your opinion is wrong. As a matter of fact, that is required upon all thinking people. Every person who thinks needs to live their life based on conclusions that they believe to be true. When we were kids, when I was a kid, there was a concept called tolerance. Tolerance is actually a very positive idea in America. It really made America an amazing place. What was tolerance? Tolerance, as the philosopher John Stuart Mill defines it, says, I disagree with you, but I will not physically force you to believe what I believe. And that's how America was founded, because they were living in Europe, and there was persecution of every single religion. Whatever the religion that was in power persecuted the other ones. So they created a system. You got freedom of religion, freedom of speech. I tolerate you, meaning I disagree with your religion. I disagree with your ideas. But I don't physically force you to change them. I tolerate them. That was the language when I was a kid. But that's changed. And when did that change? That change happened. I missed the change. I was in Israel for the change. The change happened someplace in the mid-'80s and 90s. Because I flew to America sometime in the 90s, and all of a sudden I heard a new language. I never heard this language before. It was a foreign language to me. Everyone was speaking. It was still English, but it didn't make any sense. They said, well, if it's true for you, it's true. And I said, really? That's a unique idea. So you mean if I hold up this book and I say it's a book, and you say, well, I think it's a large horse. So there's no longer a position that I say, well, I tolerate you. You're a bit strange. And, I tolerate you. But I think that that you're wrong. You're dead wrong. I can't say that anymore. Now I'm saying, well, it's true for you, meaning there is no reality anymore. That was the switch that happened in America, a dangerous shift. Now, I understand why it happened, because tolerance wasn't working so well. I understand that people are intolerant. I remember as a kid walking through the streets and I wear a yarmulke and I got attacked many times. So America was, it was tolerant, but it wasn't so tolerant. I remember thinking when I was a kid, I always imagined, could there be a black president in America? And at that time, when I was a kid, it was very hard to imagine that, And you would have thought when America voted for a black president, maybe people would say, hey, it's a great change. America really is accepting people. But somehow the narrative got worse. No, we're worse than ever. I don't know. I don't think America is actually, has developed now what is not a racist country, because countries normally are homogeneous societies. America was an experiment to create a heterogeneous society, people that are all different. And this is the problem, because when people are different, this could be a beautiful thing, but not the way that we've gone right now. Where have we gone? Instead of tolerance, we've gone to the idea that if I think I'm right and I think you're wrong, that's too dangerous for people. They can't live that way. Let's change the dynamics. Instead of saying you believe you're right and the other person's wrong, you can't say that anymore. You have to believe that everyone's right in their own world. That's called being so open-minded that your brains fall out. That's what that is. Why? Because at that point, there's no truth. You can't believe anything, right? It's a terrible, terrible thing. You don't understand what this does to people. It makes it that there's no belief. Only what is being substituted by the powers that be of what you should believe, because you can't believe anything. So they make up certain, this you got to believe, because anything else is bad. But the idea of a human being coming to his conclusion and believing they're right has become a intolerant, racist position. It's a shame. It's a real shame. And this is, by the way, just to understand this is a philosophical mistake. It's a philosophical mistake. Those who know anything about philosophy, the philosophical excuse for this is called relativism. But this is a wrong thing. When I talk about, is vanilla better than chocolate? That's a relative question, because I have my taste bud, you have your taste buds. So it's not the same frame of reference. But we're talking about the same frame of reference, within certain parameters. There are two opposing things that both cannot be true. Now, sometimes, obviously, it's a greater dynamic. But if one person says, I believe in God, I believe in one God, and a person says he believes there is no God, they both can't be true. They're mutually exclusive. And so, therefore, the inability now to actually think and hold an opinion has been an awful process that's gotten so much worse now, because what came in instead in this vacuum of people stopping to think? People had strong opinions in those days, in the past. That was good. I should be tolerant. I disagree with you. Do I need to respect your opinion? Well, that's a tough question. Because what happens if opinion is really, really stupid, right? I know there's something called like this pasta religion. Did you ever hear about this thing? Some guy made a joke, like he made this thing, the pasta monster, and he made this a fake religion. He signed it up, and it became an official religion. It's like, so like if a person says something that's really, really a position that's really stupid, I may be able to find respect for the human being, and if I look deeply and see that every person is made in the divine image, I may be able, and I should be able, hopefully, unless someone gets rid of their divine image so greatly by becoming a terrorist and a murderer and a barbarian. But I should be able to look and see as a spark of godliness in this person. But the opinion has to be worthy of respect. It's worthy of tolerance because I got to tolerate it. You have your idea. Do I need to respect it? Well, I don't know. If it's a very stupid idea, well, I might think, well, I'm sorry, I might not say it to you, but I think it's a dumb idea because maybe it is. So that's what's happened. So now what they did was I don't know who they are, but what's evolved is that the highest goal is to be open-minded. Open-minded does not mean a thinking person who hears other sides and can calculate them. You know, for us in the Torah world, we're very open-minded. Here is a book called the Talmud. Book of the Talmud. And in the Talmud, every page of the Talmud is filled with arguments of two sides, back and forth. And the truth is, the only Talmudic scholar is one that can hear both sides of the equation. And that's why, you know, they had a phenomenon in America. What's happening was Talmudic scholars, they often go to law school and they take the LSATs and they do very well, even if they didn't go to college. They went to yeshiva because the dynamic of the thinking process is to hear the other side of the argument. It's crucial. That's open-minded. I think, you think, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to see your point of view. And then I have to come out with a conclusion. Because if I don't come out with a conclusion, I've given up my humanity. I'm not a thinking person anymore. In that vacuum, what was placed instead is Facebook slogans. That's what it is. These guys are good. These guys are Nazis. These guys are racist. And everyone forgot how to think. No one knows how to think anymore. They stopped reading. They're watching idiotic shows on television that are beyond stupid, and a constant brainwashing for a society that's lost the ability to think because the value that was told to them is open-mindedness, which doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean. Open-mindedness is a great value. If you could hear the other side of the story, put yourself in the person's situation, hear their perspective, that's a great, great thing. Great thing. To do with your friends, to do with people that you disagree with, to hear where they're coming from, to go in their shoes, to think from their side. It's fantastic. In cases of normal relationships, I'm not talking about the terrorists you can't deal with, but a normal thing with your friends, you disagree with someone, be open-minded, go into their head, hear where they're coming from. It's the greatest thing in the world. It would make peace amongst people. But that's not what we're talking about. Open-mindedness does not mean that. The term is a lie. It's a misnomer. Open-mindedness today means no opinion because you're too stupid to have an opinion, or it's illegal to have an opinion. Because if you do, you're a racist because you think that the guy's wrong. You hear what I'm saying? Is this radical, Dan? Am I good? Keep going. Rod, am I hitting too many funny bones?
Oh, no, not at all, Rabbi. I am
Okay.
totally on board with how subjectivity leads to chaos. Moral
Okay,
relativism leads right to chaos. Yeah.
that's right. Now let's go for another one that's really a sacred cow. The idea of racism, because that is what is called the worst thing to be today, right? You can just say, "Oh, Trump's a racist. Trump's a racist." I don't know what it means. What does it mean? What does it mean when people say that? I don't know what it means, really. I don't. I've tried to read critical race theory a couple times. It was a jumble of nonsense. I didn't, but it seemed to be very racist, actually. It seemed to be like the most racist statement, but I don't know. I guess that's okay. But what is the idea of racism in terms of the negative? And I want to try to explain to you what I believe is appropriate racism as not a negative, derogatory, bad thing, but a good thing, and where it turns bad. And I don't think my definition is going to be acceptable. I don't think it's going to be politically correct, and I don't think that I'm going to get on the cover of Time magazine as the spokesperson for Bud Light from now on. So let's. What is it? So racism, I guess, is you're defining a race in one way or another. And you are saying this race has these propensities this way. Now, if we think about it a second, how is it possible the race doesn't have a propensity? I mean, we all learn basic biology. If you really are a race, if you're a family does have similar genes. It's a gene pool there. There's a culture. There is a DNA. There is similarities amongst the familial group that a race would also share logically. So the presumption that a race would not have certain tendencies, because that would be called a racist statement, I don't know. It seems to me to be self-evident. I don't know. I know that, like, a predisposition for sure. Now, and that's true. If you look at it, it's obvious. It seems to be fairly obvious. I don't know. It seems you can't say what's obvious today, but you go to a certain place, like people always say, they want to have like the idea of what do they call it? The equality of the same amount of people. But there are a lot of more African Americans in the NBA than white people. Okay, do we want to go make the rule there? I don't know. Do I see certain races may have certain qualities? And the answer is, besides for logic, from the Torah perspective, for sure. Racism versus prejudice versus stereotypes. Good. Let's try to understand this. Stereotypes and prejudices. What's the difference between understanding the point that I'm saying that a race has a propensity? Where does that go sour? Where does it go sour? And it's very important to understand. It goes sour in two ways. First of all, we don't know any particular race what their qualities are, because we don't even know what really races are. From the Torah perspective, there are 70 root nations. Every root nation has quality. Let's talk about it in the positive for a moment. Every one of the 70 nations, it says, has their unique quality. That's their talent. That's their skill. So first of all, on the one level, instead of looking at the negative, it's the positive. It means that every nation, every family, everyone has something they could do. And this is so important, because if people really wanted to have a diverse society, and diverse is not a quality in itself. Diverse is a quality only if I take differences and I find a way to unite the group. That is why, that's why I say America was based on the idea of states' rights and states and federal law, the federal government. That was based on the Torah structure of the 12 tribes. Each had a unique system, but they had to combine together to become one nation. And that's really a beautiful thing if every group could bring out their qualities. Now, there's a few problems with that. First of all, we don't really know what race is anymore. We don't know who's exactly what, because the nations are really mixed up. There were 70 root systems. But that's not the negative of racism. That's a positive. That means that everybody has their strengths and the unique challenges and the unique strengths. Where does it become dangerous, as Nancy said? Where it becomes dangerous like this. When you talk about an aggregate, you talk about a group, first of all, you can't tell what the group is, and you don't know their strengths, unless you have it in the Torah, which we do have some of the people mentioning some of the nations, their strengths. So unless you have, God tells you, this is the strength of this people, how do you know what it is? You're viewing it and you're putting on your own small vision of what it is. But the problem is, so first of all, you don't know what the nation is, and you don't know what their strengths are. But the second problem is, and this is a bigger problem, is that it's talking about an aggregate. Any individual has free will to become what they become. So what Nancy said before, the stereotyping or the prejudice is the danger of it. But to realize a nation has a quality and a strength and has a propensity is not only not a bad thing, it should be a fairly obvious reality. Again, what it is, who's the nation, and the understanding that does not bound anybody or bind anyone within that group is an obvious statement. But there's a struggle right now in the world because they try to make everyone the same. They try to make it now everyone's different, but no one can get along. And even though we don't know what necessarily what each nation, which unique quality of each race is, but for a nation to understand, or an individual to understand that they have who they are, they might not know today which really root they come from. But you have qualities, and just like your family has shared qualities, you may have that in terms of people that are like you, which they may even be genetically and biologically related to you, for many, many years. So the idea of whatever it means, the idea, as we said, is not the problem. Is not understanding a nation has qualities. It's understanding that those qualities, you can't go and say and judge and say, well, you're inferior, you're no good, because if you understand that God gave qualities to every nation, and everyone's quality is meant to be served and to be brought into the system, then it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Well, why would a person want to lose that? And again, you might not know what nation we're from. We don't, because America's a conglomeration. It's not really, but the idea that different people have different strengths and that they are genetically a part of their makeup as well as their culture, that's a reality. People don't want to talk about that because the danger that Nancy just said. Just like we can't have you believing you're right and someone else is wrong. That's gonna be a problem. We can't have this idea because we saw how that went. Well, that may be true, but the alternative right now of people denying the obvious is not working out too well either, because people don't know how to think. So there are qualities. Now, I'm gonna say something now, which will be extremely politically incorrect, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and I'm gonna say it in light of the terrorist situation now in Israel. And it's really, I would take it as a call to our Arab cousins, to do hopefully like their ancestor Yishmael, who became a very righteous person at the end of his life. And there are Arabs who are do this or embracing this. But the Torah, which really at a certain point in the process that we're getting to, and the Christians know this, and the Jews know it, the way that the left is moving in the 1984 mode of thinking, I don't know how they haven't banned the Bible yet. I don't know how they haven't done it, but if they get enough power, they will certainly try to do that. You know, because again, Torah people do not understand without the explanation, and that's also why this is a great danger when people talk about, like, Sharia law. If it's an Arab country, when they have Sharia law, okay, that's what they all want to do. But the Torah approach and the Torah laws, we have a very complex system on application of the laws. So much so that 40 years before the temple was destroyed, the sages stopped judging capital cases already. So people who read the Torah and don't understand, they will take on that. Oh, we should be doing that. The reason why the rabbis stopped judging capital cases is because the world fell to a lower level. So there's a very strong application of Torah, how to apply different things. So it's a very different system in that the Torah perspective would not be called this fundamental radical perspective, although we obviously believe what we believe is right and wrong. But there's a time where God is the judge, and a time where the Sanhedrin, the courts, are the ones who judge those cases. And that is in a time when the world is in a greater state of clarity. The world's in a state of confusion now, and in many cases, God is the only judge, and we don't have a right to judge certain cases that we don't do. But the thing I want to share with you is, so when people read parts of the Torah, they'll seem, whoa, wait a minute, this seems to go against the common belief system of the world, and it does. So there is a place where it talks about Yishmael, the father of the Arab nation, and the verse says, "Huye para Adam." He will be, and this is the blessing that God gives to Ishmael's mother, Hagar, that he will be a very powerful nation. Yado bakol, Yad kol bo, his hand will be in everyone, and everyone's hand will be in him. They'll be fighting him. And it says, Uya para Adam. He'll be para is a wild man. And the sages explain that the Arab nation has these two qualities. He was from Abraham. Abraham was the first believer. And he was from the line of Hagar, who was from the ancient Egyptians, and I'm not saying nations were today, who were a certain wild type of people. And the combination creates a dynamic where this is a nation of people that have the belief power of Abraham, but sometimes it's uncontrolled. It has that wild component. Those are the two dynamics. Now, this is something that, again, if I talk about I'm talking about it because it's something the Torah tells me is a quality of this nation. And it's a very dangerous quality when not used correctly. Why? Because when not used correctly, it means I believe something, and I'm strong in my belief, and therefore I can do whatever I want to do. In Islam, they have two beliefs, two proofs they say the Quran is true. One is they say that if you read it, you'll see how wise it is. All right, people can read things, but they think. And the second proof they want to say is that since Islam started in the year 622, and they spread out throughout wars, they conquered so fast, it's a sign that God was supporting their position. Now, I don't know if that's a proof, because I can think of a lot of reasons why that would be that way. But a nation that has this combination of a unbridled component connected with a belief they have is a strong recipe for some of the extremist Islamic practices that we see in the world. Yeah, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but it's a nature that we see playing out. This is not like something that we don't see. This we see. We see that there is if 20% of I don't know of Muslims are what they would call today radical Muslims, or believe that every nation must come under Sharia law, that's a large number. Even if it's a small, less than that, it's still a gigantic number. And that's really a certain quality. It was funny. I said to you before. I was listening to the son of the founder of Hamas talking again. And it's interesting to hear him talk. He's so passionate about it, and he's great in terms of like he had his head screwed on right. But there is a certain strength, a certain wildness when it's combined with this belief system. So there you can go into dangerous territory, and that's really something that we see, and it's unfortunate because if that power of belief is directed in the right way, then it will be a good thing for them and a good thing for the world. And that really is. So what I really want today is for us to question the basic assumptions that people make in the world. The basic assumptions, the idea of this open-mindedness is not what's open-mindedness. Open-mindedness means that I can hear your side, but I can come to my conclusion and say, I think you are wrong if I believe you're wrong, and I believe I'm right. I'll tolerate you. The idea of racism as a problem is when I now say no one in that group can be different than that group. I understand what the group is, and they are limited to this, that, and it's inferior to another group. That's where it's negative. But where it's positive is to understand that nations do have qualities, and every nation's quality is supposed to be brought into the system. That is the approach that Hashem set the world up. The concept is like the Hebrew language. The Hebrew language is supposed to be like white light. And when you run it through a prism, it shows the colors of the spectrum of the rainbow. And the Hebrew language is the concept of what would be inclusive of all the systems. And every language of the 70 languages and the 70 nations was a way, a system, and a process with certain qualities and certain challenges. And everyone within that system has the ability to take their God-given strengths and their challenges and to use it to bring it in the system. That would be an amazing diversity. Not just for the sake of diversity, but to say, I have this quality and I want to bring it in. And that's where, unfortunately, America is in a lot of trouble right now as a nation, as a country. And the world is, because they don't understand these principles. They just mix the whole thing up. There's no unity in the country. The country said we're unified behind a vision, and we're different. And we want to go for a vision of goodness, of truth. Then you have something. Then you could take the strengths of different people and you could use them together. That really is where we've taken concepts that can be strengths, but the inability to think through them deeply has now substituted slogans. And every guy who has an opinion you don't like is a racist. Every guy. And what does that mean? I don't know what it means, but it's bad. Well, I don't know. I do believe people have different qualities. Families have qualities. Nations have qualities. And you have to look at your qualities. You might not be able to know what nation you're from, but you got to look at your qualities and figure out, these are my strengths, these are my challenges, and this is the process that I have to do my mission. And as I started this session tonight, that really is this fundamental concept, which even the mistaken Israeli government here is doing flips and turns and endangering our own people, unfortunately. They're doing it because in a certain place, there's a principle that a person who saves one life saves the whole world. Because one person has a unique quality to bring into the system. And if everyone takes their qualities and brings it into a system of goodness, we move into a world of goodness. But if the concept is a culture of death and disregarding people's lives and pushing them down and telling them this is what it is, this is what you got to think, this is what you are, this is what, and then we have what we have today. We have people supporting murderers and terrorists instead of people saying, let me see the truth, let me think deeply, let me take my qualities and bring them into a system to elevate the world. Just like Adam did when he was first created. He wrote a psalm, one of the psalms we say on Friday night, where he turned around to the world, to all the creations and all the people, him and Adam and Chava. He says, come, let us sing praises to God. Because everything in the world has a purpose, has a place. And a human being, it's a whole world, even anything. So certainly, everything you have has got a place in the world. That's why there's a forbidden law in the Torah to destroy. No, it's not one of the 7 laws of Noah, but I assume that is also an obligation for the Bnei Noach because it's a logical law. The law in Torah is you're not allowed to destroy something. You can't just take something and break it. It's forbidden. Oh, it's mine. I own it. What do you mean you own it? Why do you own it? Well, it says mine. I own it. No, because God gave it you to do something with. So if you have a car, it's for a purpose. You can't just break something. What would it? How could you break something? It makes no sense. It's yours for a reason to do something good with what you have. So everything in the world has a place and has a time. And certainly every human being in the world is valuable, has a place at a time. If we celebrate life and see the differences and let people understand, yes, I have an opinion, I may be different from you, but I'm going to take my strengths and bring them to unify in the service of connecting to our source. And I got to bring it back to God, because every single time, every one of these systems of whether it's communism, whether it's John Lennon singing Imagine, whether it's whatever it is, they all fall. They all fall. Because in a system that is not based in the root of reality, it's an illusion that's going to fall apart. So if the world unites and says there's one source, one creator, goodness in the world, and he created the world to give us good, and he put us in a challenging world so we can get back together and we could do it. And I have skills I'm going to bring into the system to make this happen. We build the world and make it a beautiful place. Okay, those are my thoughts. Any comments, ideas, or questions? Thank you. We're on some tricky ice, thin ice parts there. I know some parts were a little bit, whoa, where's this going? But we got to say what's true, and people got to do it. Got to know it.
Yeah, when you're dealing with moral relativism, the people that are stuck in it, all they see is victims and victimizers, and they don't afford anybody good qualities. It's you're either a victim or a victimizer, and then they react, overreact, and they like to be a crusader, as if a victimizer's a tyrant, and all of a sudden they're a freedom or social justice warrior, they call them, and they're fighting for the victim that you're victimizing, and they don't realize that they're pointing fingers, and several are pointing back at them in the process.
Yeah, I know.
It leads to chaos.
Just hearing some of these people talk, I don't listen to it but like it's like wow. Some people are like, the ones that are evil, but
they're losing their capability to think. Yeah, and their imagination rules over their intellect.
All right, and that's why this is so amazing what's happened. I don't know that it really is a shocking situation what we're up to right now. that with the advance of technology right now, people have really lost their ability to think, and this process of of it's on a high, it's on a massive level, because you couldn't brainwash people on this level before. It was like, this was like a dream of a communist Russia. Wow, we could control, you know, everyone's thinking. This is like a dream come true. Before it was like, we'll put stuff on television, on the radio, whatever it is, and people will listen. But the guy says, hey, listen, I know it's propaganda. I'm not going to listen. Now you put it yourself on there, and your algorithm sends you what you want to go. It's like, it's so easy to brainwash people when they have no ability to think right now. It's terrible. It's terrible. People need to become people again, and unfortunately, without really coming back to the source of everything, they won't, because they're going to make up their own things. And maybe be a little bit better, like like I heard that guy, and the guy who was just elected in Argentina. I said, well, I don't want to rule over what is it, cats. I want to wake up the lions. Okay, I think that's great. I think that people start thinking. The problem is, when people start thinking, they make up their own things. It's a problem. The concept of America, democracy is not panacea. Hamas is democratically elected. But the concept that if you give people prosperity, they'll be able to be tolerant because they want to do their thing, they got to do their thing. It did bring America a lot of unique, positive things that were in the world. But I don't know. I don't know if we can get there now. I really don't. But that's
Mm.
okay, because the reality is that where we're going is not the American utopia. Where we're going is the Torah utopia,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're going to it's not the utopia of just the capitalist system again that worked well. It did work well. It provided a lot of, but we're
Yeah,
looking
Rabbi
toward the
Sean on
system too.
YouTube says it's like some have devolved back to the age of feudal peasants in Europe.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what people are asking for. They're literally asking for communism. They're asking for it's amazing. But whatever, right now it's like, on the positive side, Dan, I think what's going to happen is that all of this is a precursor for a time of clarity and revelation,
Oh
and
yeah, I
that's
think
what's
the
going to
the
happen.
governments are going to spend themselves into bankruptcy in the process, and
Yeah,
try to,
yeah.
pose as a savior to every solution to keep that kind of subjectivity ruling, and reality, as though it's going to get more and more chaotic, and until people realize that the light is
Yeah,
is the way.
I, I'll tell you something. I think the Israeli government. I don't know, because I mean, thank God we got back some of the hostages, and that's a very, very vital thing. But I think the Israeli government has not been so smart with their process. As not what people are accusing them of, because their level of trying to play by the rules of people that no one would do this in the world, I think, is a mistake. And I think they made some mistakes. But the good part about that, I really enjoyed about the fact they made so many mistakes, was that no Jew should put their confidence in the Israeli army. Not because they have some very holy soldiers. I mean, it's beautiful. They really have some. They have some people that are secular, but it's a lot of religious, holy, righteous, beautiful people doing a lot of great things. But what I mean by that is that the trust has to be in God. That God's running the show. If you think anything else is running the show, you're walking on the edge of idolatry. I'm not going to say it's literally an idolatry, but it is the root of it when you think there's anything else that really is running the show. If it's your great army, if it's your great president, if it's your great this, your great that, well, all of these things, or your terrible president, your terrible, whatever it is, that's not what's happening. So I don't want to think, oh, they got it under control. No, I don't think they have it under control. I know Hashem has it under control. And I know God has it under control, and it's moving to exactly where it has to go. And hopefully we'll have people make the right decisions. But we have a principle that God, Lev Malachim B'Yad Hashem, that God moves the hearts of the leaders of the world to bring about the global process. And the global process is clearly happening. And one of the things, I'll end with this point, which is really what you're saying, Dan, I think it's so true. At the end of one of the ways that this whole thing transpires is people lose their confidence in anything else. It says the governments turn to meanness. The governments turn to heretical, crazy ideas. That's part of the process before the Mashiach comes, because people now put their confidence in this and that. It's like, you start looking, you're saying, wait a minute, really? Really? I mean, like they got Trump on these charges that, like, I mean, come on, really, really? I mean, like, you're not embarrassed? You're not embarrassed? It's such a joke. But like, the emperor's not wearing any clothes, and now people are starting to see the emperor's not wearing any clothes. So wait a minute, this whole thing, every single conspiracy theory of the past 3 years has been exactly accurate. Every single one. It's crazy. No, the thing came from the lab, the lab leak. Conspiracy. Oh, it's true. Yeah, you go through every single thing that they accuse you of being a conspiracy theory, and they're all true. So people are starting to look and say, wait a minute, where am I putting my trust? I can't trust these guys. And I think the trust in the government is very, very, very low, and as it should be. And so when all of these paradigms, when all of these institutions that people have put their faith in are shaken, so people will be open to experiencing a deeper, truer connection to the one ultimate source, which is God.
Rabbi Nancy Grooms has a question.
Oh, please, Nancy.
Yeah. It's my question.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the population of the world, 8 billion people or something, So we got 8 billion ideas out there, 8 billion ideas of truth and everything. And Hashem is known by quite a few different names, but from what I understand, what he is, Hashem is truth. There's only one truth. And so for me and a bunch of other people, we try to read the Torah and stuff, but that's why we come to you rabbis, so you can explain to us what the truth that Hashem is trying to tell us. And and we're grateful for that. And we realize that not all you rabbis agree and say the same thing, but deep down inside you do, for the most part. And that's why we come to you and listen to you, and we are grateful for that.
Well, I'm very happy. I'm very happy you said that, Tar, and I'm happy to do that, because it's a decision that I think is an important thing to do. I think there are people like yourself and people on this forum who are true people, righteous people amongst the nations who want to do good, and you need to hear it. And you're right. Everyone's got crazy ideas, and they're not true. And like I said in the beginning, I'll have a discussion with anybody, but what's true is true, and I'm not going to say, well, it's true for you, because it's true for you, believe it, but I still will say it's wrong. You can say what you want to say, but the truth is the truth, and we know there's one God who created the world, The world is in the process of revealing that, and it's a very deep process, but the process is moving, it's going, it happens constantly. As we learn we have a learning center now we study in Israel, learning esoteric wisdom of the Torah, and we talk about every moment we're getting one step closer. And how that happens, we go through the great details of it, but it's happening. And that's the process. And what we have to know is that God put us in this world and he wants us to do our part. And that is how we earn our place in the world, our place in eternity. You can't take the wrong side and be a bad person and say that you did something. You got to be on the right side. You have to know the truth. And as you said, the first starting point is what is true. Because, if someone has wrong ideas, then whatever they do is not going to come out good. The best you could say is, well, they had good intention, but they were totally wrong, and how they acted was wrong. So that's the reality. And I said to you many times, like people who and the rabbis. By the way, the rabbis of that keep the Torah. We all do agree, meaning that I even if on a particular point I have another viewpoint, but when I hear the other rabbi's viewpoint, I also know how that's true, because that's within the framework of truth. I'll give you an example, very, very important example. The guy says, I was teaching Talmud once to a group of doctors. They were visiting when I was teaching in Israel many years ago. They were visiting from the States. They used to come and learn with us. So I had a group of doctors. And it was on the Talmud, and there's all these different opinions of the Talmud. And they were like bothered by it. And I said, I don't understand. Did you have a case where a guy came to you as a doctor and asked you for a prognosis, and you gave him a plan what you thought was right, and he went to a friend of yours, another doctor, and had a different opinion?
There's a marker on your face.
So did he have another opinion? And the guy said, yeah. So now, is one right and one wrong? Well, not necessarily. Because you could have, in a dynamic of a person who's trained in medicine, you could have two approaches that could both be right. So the guy has a heart problem. You can give him on a diet and exercise, and that might be the best thing if he pulls it off. And if he doesn't, maybe the surgery will work. So maybe it could be both ways. Or even deeper, there are different types of medicine. So there's Eastern medicine, Western medicine. They look at the body, and they can have two different ways to treat it. So now, here's our problem, Tom. So I go to the doctor, and Dr. A says do this, Dr. B says do that. So I say, well, there's two opinions here. So you know what? I'll go to my plumber and get a third opinion. No, that's not good. If I put the snake, I'll stick it down your arteries and the plumber, he can give his opinion about plumbing. He can't give his opinion about a doctor because he's not a doctor. So all rabbis that follow the Torah, means that keep the Torah as it was given to Moshe. I'm not talking about, Reformed conservative who reformed and changed it, but every Orthodox rabbi was in the system. So even if I disagree with his particular application, I don't really disagree with him, because I'm a doctor saying this is the way to treat, and you say that's really the way to treat. And I hear your point. I think my way is the way to do it. But I hear your point. It's not wrong, but that's the danger. So here's the point, and this is how we started. Very good you asked this, because this comes back to the very beginning. What the truth is that yes, things are not always so black and white. Sometimes there can be different approaches. Where the world has gone crazy is now said that anything goes. So you're a man, you think you're a woman. You're a woman. You think it. So now, whatever you want to be, you are. So now you created a world where there is no reality. So you've taken the beauty of understanding two sides of a story and having a broader perspective, and you sold that out for cheap thinking and said there's no truth. That's what people have done. So my answer is every time there's a authentic Jewish rabbi, I might disagree in the local point, but what he's saying is true also. I think this made this different way to do it. That's all within the treatment of a doctor to a patient that are both possible scenarios. It doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. And that free-for-all phenomenon has made it that there's no truth and there's no thinking people anymore. Or very few. I shouldn't say that because obviously, as you said, you're here to learn the truth. So there are, thank God, thinking people as yourself and people on this forum, and God willing, we'll have a lot more thinking people and people who will want the truth as it says in the prophets. They will look for it. The that Hashem will fill the earth with His knowledge of God, that the waters fill the sea. Everyone will want to know, and people will have the understanding at that time. All right, I gotta go, everyone. It's late.
Shalom, Rabbi.
See you next week, by the way.
You guys will see you tomorrow night with Rabbi Zvi Avner, 7 o'clock. Don't forget Tuesday night's a double hitter with Rabbi David Weiss and Rabbi Yaakov Wobi. Yaakov Wobi is going to be doing a continuation on his series until tomorrow.
Okay, right.
Night.
And Rod, so we gotta talk about and Dan also gotta talk about the event we're gonna be doing in Texas. So those who are in Texas.
Yes. So
Late
we're gonna
January
give
or
a
early
date out
February.
soon
Have you settled on that?
January, February.
It's gonna be, from the way I calculated it now, I'm gonna finalize it, but we're looking at to be in Texas, God willing. I'm still to speak to rabbis in Texas. I haven't gotten to all of them yet, but we're looking to be God willing from the 15th of January for 1 week. We'll be in Texas, speaking in Houston, maybe a few other places. It's a big state. But during that time will be our event, God willing, and we'll finalize it this week. So mid-January looks like the date we're talking about.
Okay.
Excellent.
Shalom, guys.
Always a pleasure. Real spot on tonight, Rabbi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All the best. Take care. Bye, everybody.
And for those of you out there listening, I plan on being back in just less than 2 hours, and I'll be broadcasting Rabbi Moshe Schulman's Noahide Path chat with the North American group. The last one he did with the North American group, we had about 35 people in the Zoom meeting, so it was a pretty good session, lots of good questions. We'll be back in less than 2 hours with that. So until next week, Rabbi, are you aiming to do one next week?
Yeah, trying next week to you.
Okay,
right.
Shalom, guys.
All the best.
All right. Bye for now.